Welcome back to another review here on Collider, and this time it's all about the Fantastic Beasts. That's right, Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. It's our spoiler heavy review. So if you have not seen the movie, you should probably wait and then come on back because we're going to get into it here. It's all about the 70 years before the events in Harry Potter. David Yates is back directing this movie. Eddie Redmayne stars, and we got into it. I am joined by a wonderful panel here. First, to my left, Miss Wendy Lee. Hello, Miss Wendy Lee. How are you?
Hi, guys. I'm good, thanks. Hey, everybody. Whoa, my scarf. It's magic.
It's mad. I used a little poof, huffle poof, or whatever it's called. To my right is Perry Nemiroff. Perry, how are you?
No magic on this side of the table. You're just going to watch me mispronounce all the creature names this entire review.
Oh, I'm not even going to try, but we are going to get into this review here. We're going to go into a couple things that we liked, then we'll go into some things that we didn't love so much, and then we'll end it with a final score. Wendy, let's start with you. What are some of the things that you enjoyed about Fantastic Beasts and where to find them?
Well, first of all, what I loved was that they threw us right back into the wizarding world, the magical world. I love seeing Newt Scamander exploring the American soils this time, coming out of, the usual Hogwarts setting that we're usually in. And I also love seeing the main four characters coming together and the journey they take through this movie. That was probably my favorite part. The chemistry between him and the character Jacob is phenomenal, and it's like major bromance going on over there, and I loved every part of it. And my next favorite thing are all the fantastical creatures. Wow. The part where they go into the suitcase, absolutely my favorite part. I was completely submerged into the magical world, and I didn't want to leave.
Well, I'm with you here because for me, I believe that Newt Scamander served as a liaison from everything we knew from Harry Potter in the previous films, because they certainly mention Hogwarts. They mention that his relationship with Dumbledore. I love that subtle little thing of what is it when Colin Farrell says to him, why does Dumbledore look at you in such high regard? And now knowing Colin Farrell's true identity, it makes even more sense of why he wants to know these things. But he gets off the boat. We find out that this is a guy. We're not doing this in London anymore. We're not at Hogwarts. We're going into New York here. We're going to see what it was like in America during that time. It's 70 years ago, and I like how we first see him. I love the kind of dopey look he has on his face. Just like, I'm just going to do my thing. I don't care what anyone else is doing. I got things in my briefcase, and now I'm going to go cause a mess. And I'll tell you what. When he first shows up in the bank, I was a little nervous because I thought it was just going to be joke after joke after joke and silliness, and then I was nervous again because I haven't always been a fan of Dan Fogler, and I was worried that his casting was going to mean more of that silly, over-the-top humor. And there were really only a couple of times to where I winced when I saw Dan Fogler doing these kind of silly, goofy faces when he's drugged out or whatever it may be when he gets bit by the creature. But that was the extent of it. For the most part, Dan Fogler was great in this movie. I cared about his character. I was emotionally attached to all of these characters. I thought they did a very good job in setting up all of them enough to where I cared and I understood their relationships. Sometimes when I have a main character that I'm introduced to the first time, I want to learn about that character and their adventure, and I don't want to see them on team adventures yet. I think a lot of times movies in the past have joined certain new characters with teams, and it's lost it for me. This wasn't the case. I was nervous that I was going to, but I cared because they worked well as a unit. Their investigation, the things that they had to do, the subtle references to the Harry Potter world, but not beating us over the head with it. Sure, there were mentions of muggles, and then introducing this new term of no-maj. But they didn't have to tell you, well, what a muggle is this, and then magic is this, and then you can't see this, and this is a house elf, because you didn't need any of that. They assume that you know this world already. And I don't think, even if you don't know the world, I don't think you will be lost in this movie. I was worried also that this was going to be 5 movies, maybe too much. And I was thinking maybe one off and then we're done. I don't know if I need to see it. It left me going, oh, I have a lot of questions, because Ezra Miller, the way Ezra Miller's character was killed off, I thought was sudden. And I was wondering, I was like, well, he went out pretty quick. But then I thought it was kind of tragic. And his whole character was tragic. And the way that they set him up was tragic. And it wasn't about him. It was about the manipulation of what the Johnny Depp character, the reveal there, it was about that and his mission. So overall, there was a lot that I found very enjoyable in this film. Perry?
I liked the large majority of the movie quite a bit. I'll echo what you said about teaching people about this world. The movie did an exceptional job of not doing the exposition overload route where they have to explain everything and walk you through the facilities and show you how magic works. None of that at all. It felt really organic. It felt really organic to the characters, especially Catherine Waterston's character. Her character's situation was kind of the perfect way to naturally guide you through what it is in real life in New York with the No-Majs and how they
Right,
behave, and
right.
then also in the facility that she used to work in. There, you can go between both worlds seamlessly, and that was great. I love the four of them as a group.
Yeah.
I loved them so much that it leads to what I will talk about on my more negative thoughts about the movie, which was basically just that when it was not with the four of them, I was not as invested. But damn, at the end, when Dan Fogler has to go out into the rain,
What a great scene that was.
I was on the verge of tears. I couldn't believe how emotional I got, and I couldn't believe how much I cared about them and their relationship when, you know, if you pare it down and you do calculate how much screen time the relationship between Jacob Kowalski and Queenie get,
Yeah.
that is such like a minimal nothing thing, yet at the end I'm ready to cry for the two of them.
I had more of a connection with Jacob and Queenie than I did, even more so than Eddie Redmayne. And what was-
Absolutely.
I will agree with that. However, I liked how, I don't know if understated is the right word, but there was something like quiet and calm
They're
about
setting
the
it up.
two of
They're
them.
setting it up more too, because the relationship with Zoe Kravitz and how even at the very end, the nice moment, because they have like this. It's not. It doesn't beat you over the head with the fact that, well, they're gonna get together. Get
Yeah.
ready for it. It's she at first doesn't really know what to make of him. He doesn't care. All he cares about the damn beasts. He wants to make sure that everybody is leaving the beasts alone and learning more about them. But at the end, they have, because they do work with such a great dynamic, that when you get that scene at the end where he's like, I'm going to come back and deliver it to you, she's like, I like that. I like that very much. And we go, we'd like that. We'd like that very much. Either
Yeah.
come back or you go and see him at Hogwarts.
It does have me a little confused where the movie leaves off because, as we know from quotes that are circulating, they're going to a new country in the future. So does that mean, and given what happens to Jacob in the movie, does that mean we leave the two sisters and Jacob behind and Newt goes on his adventures
Right.
for the rest of the franchise? That is the only thing that has me nervous moving forward, just because I really fell in love with them as a group. But then, just to go back to the creatures, I don't think the CG in this movie was perfectly on point. Some of them did look a little cartoonish, and I could tell it was digital at a point. However, there are points where like Eddie Redmayne is like rubbing his hand over a beast and you could see like feathers rustling under. I like things like that, but I want a damn Niffler. I don't care if it's going to steal me of every penny I have. I could have watched The Fantastic Niffler and Where to Find It and just watched Eddie Redmayne chase that cute little thing all over
was pretty
Manhattan.
great,
But
yeah.
I wanted that, and I wanted his little his stick plant dude.
Oh, yeah.
Ah,
I like that relationship
love
that he
that.
had with him too, and I really, you know what I dug was the New York accents. I thought I was
Yes.
worried that, because I'm very, very critical on that stuff sometimes, and I was wondering. And look, a '30s New York accent is a lot different than today's New York accent, but it felt old timey. It felt movie-ish, and I was okay with that. And I thought Dan Fogler did a great job with the New York accent. You know, a couple times he slipped, but I'm not going to cite him for it. It was, for the most part, he was. The second he started talking about being that baker, and I was worried about his character, and again, he became that lovable baker, just like. And I thought that line, by the way, I love that line when they're walking down the street, and he and Eddie Redmayne turns to him, he goes, "People like you." He's like, "It's good." He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Ah." He's like, "People like you too." He's like, "No, people find me annoying." And I said to myself in the beginning of the movie, I said, "I like Eddie Redmayne a lot, but I could see where people could get annoyed by this
Yes.
character right away." And then he said that, and I'm
Yeah.
like, "That's brilliant."
That hands down got the biggest laugh.
I'm
in my
sure because
screening.
people are
It
like,
was
yes,
great.
you're a bit annoying, but you acknowledge it, so we like you for it.
New York looked fantastic.
It
Oh,
really
yes,
did,
it
It
yeah.
did.
did have
Yes,
like
it
a
did.
really old school cinematic quality, and it was stunning, and it was the scope of it too. I'm
Sure.
surprised how much we were able to see, like how much depth we were able to get in each frame, because they did a really damn good job, especially with, I mean, it sounds silly, but acquiring the cars and all the things
Yeah,
necessary
man,
for that. It
absolutely.
was very well done.
Wendy, a couple more things you liked, or?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Eddie Redmayne, his characteristics and his mannerisms. He's this awkward, eccentric person, and when he deals with people, you guys were just talking about that. He's very off-putting. He doesn't really know how to act, but when he goes inside his suitcase, caring for the beasts, and he's making the head count to see which one he needs to rescue back, he is now in his element. All of a sudden, he's comfortable. He's making eye contact with the beasts, where you see him not really able to make eye contact with the rest of the humans.
Right, he feels more comfortable with the beast for
exactly.
sure. Yeah.
And then I also liked seeing the Ministry of Magic on the American side, and they called it the Makusa, and seeing how that worked. And I like the dark tone that the movie set in the very beginning with the newspaper headlines with Grindelwald attacks. And then later on, when they capture Newt and Tina and they were about to sentence them to death, and that whole scene in the pool was really frightening and very dark. And I was like, I've never seen this in any other Harry Potter movies where I really felt, I was like, are we going to lose one of them right now? And what a horrible way to go.
All right, well, moving into some of the things that we didn't like about the movie, and I'm sure there's going to be quite a few for sure. One of the things, is a particular scene to me that jumps out. John Voight, who I think was kind of wasted in the movie for sure, he just plays kind of the father of the potential president or the senator. The senator was awful. That scene when he was in there and like he played he's the brother and they come in and I like the conversation. Him and Voight were having a conversation. The brother comes in and to say, here are these witches. We should listen to them. No, we don't want to listen to them. Fine, ended. That's it. But then they do this cliche nonsense to where he gets up and he goes, "What are you doing here, freak?" And it's like it was just the setup so then the smoke monster from Lost could kill him. And it's like, that to me was some of the laziest writing, and there wasn't a lot of it, but that was really lazy, and I felt I was kind of sucked out of it because I'm like, no, that's just like a bad villain that you don't know how to write, and there was no reason. You just want us to feel like it was okay that he died because he called that kid a freak. It was lazy. I didn't like that at all. The other thing was, with what's Grindelwald? Grindelwald. I am upset to think that Colin Farrell is done in this franchise now. Because by the end, I thought Colin Farrell, once again, crushing, as he always does in every movie he's in. He is one of the most underrated actors out there and one of my favorite actors working today. And I thought he was a very compelling villain. I was never surprised that he was the villain. Like there was no shock when they revealed he was the bad guy. But then when they reveal Johnny Depp at the end, and I'm sure there's going to be conflicting opinions here. I didn't mind the reveal that it was Johnny Depp. I said, I knew he was going to be in the movie. I didn't realize it was going to be Grindelwald. That's kind of cool. But then I went, well, crap, what does that mean for Colin Farrell? Because I was like, because at first when they caught him, I'm like, they're going to get, and then Grindelwald, who is Johnny Depp, is going to break him out, and then they're going to work together. Johnny Depp and Farrell working together, that's great. And I'm like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Is he gone? But it also made me go back to Harry Potter, Mad Eye Moody. That's kind of what I'm hoping, because Mad Eye Moody came back, the real one came back. So I'm hoping that he's able to come back and we find out that he was a good guy. Then I'll be happy with it. But I was nervous about that. The other things, there was a couple times you talk about Eddie Redmayne's awkwardness. The stupid dance he's doing in front of the rhino I felt awkward for him. It was like for a little bit.
He owned it though. He owned it.
He did own it, but I just felt like he must have. If there was any scene that he felt uncomfortable with, I bet you that was the one, because just doing this really silly dance and that whole thing with the rhinoceros, whatever that thing was, it started getting a little goofy. And like I mentioned, back to where Dan Fogler gets bit by the first creature, and then he's doing the drunk dance and the over-the-top comedy stuff, and I was worried where we were going with it. And then there were a couple slow moans leading up to the investigation and trying to find out exactly what was happening and what the reveal was. But going into another surprise that I found was there were a couple times that they tricked me, that I didn't know these things were happening. I didn't really play in. I thought Ezra Miller was going to have a bigger role than he did, and he eventually did. But I didn't expect him to be the one right away. Like they got me with that one. So, but overall, I enjoyed most of it. Those are the problems I had. But how about you, Perry?
Most of my problems, besides, a slight complaint with the cartoonist digital effects every once in a while, which didn't take me out of the movie. So that really is not a big complaint whatsoever. But my biggest problem were the villains, particularly the Shaw family, the senator.
Yeah.
that could
They were
have
worthless.
been
Yeah.
completely removed from the movie. And I think by including, and it's not even like it was the one senator, it was a whole family issue. And I think that took a lot of screen time away from Colin Farrell
Yeah.
and the witchcraft issue too, because that was something that I got it. I understood what they were trying to do, and I thought it was a very interesting predicament where the whole wizarding community is afraid that there's essentially going to be like a Salem witch trial thing, and there's going to be a big war in Manhattan. That's a huge deal. I think they needed to focus a little more on that from maybe a smaller perspective, but we had so many factions in play, and then I wasn't entirely sure in the beginning of the movie what Colin Farrell's character was up to and whose side he was playing for. So I think I was being pulled in so many directions on the villain front that nobody's evil plan felt personal enough to
Right.
me or real enough to me. And then, towards the end, it turns into a big citywide destruction thing. And the only time that scale of destruction really meant something was when the four main characters were at risk.
Right.
Otherwise, I started to lose interest in the grand scale war that was going on. And, just because I have to comment on Johnny Depp, couldn't believe it. That reveal didn't bother me at all. Yes, I'm sad that probably means it's the end of Colin Farrell for the franchise, but that was one of the first times, even though I knew it was Johnny Depp, I knew that was coming eventually. When they did reveal him, I kept looking at him and I'm saying to myself, I like that you don't look like Johnny Depp in makeup right now. Even though I knew it was
Right.
him, I didn't find it off-putting at all.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that the other thing is who played the president?
Oh man.
Oh,
I know her name is
Carmen Ejogo from
Yeah,
The Purge.
yeah.
So the problem I had, not with her as an actor, because I thought she did well. The problem I had was the president was kind of dopey. Like there was a lot of times until like the end when she wasn't, but she just makes very rash decisions. It's just like, yeah, just wipe his memory, do this. I don't want to listen to you. Wait, but I have some information. I don't want to talk to you, but I have some really good information. Don't want to hear from you. Why? Listen to what
Yes.
she is saying.
Yeah.
You're gonna listen to her later. You just we need the plot to move.
And
a
then you
little
realize she later came back. Why didn't you tell us? Well, I tried
Right.
to tell you.
Right.
And then they didn't really go into that. And I felt like Tina not bothered me so much that Tina didn't have a voice where she's trying to get back in, the good graces of Makusa and trying to become an Auror again. And she didn't speak up. She went and ran around and captured beasts all over New York, but she couldn't speak up and say, I have this, just blurt it out. And at the end, she that was her chance to say, you know what? I try to tell you. You don't want to listen to me. Look where we are now.
Right.
Listen to me now. And that I felt like that was such a missed opportunity for her to stand up for herself and make her character a little bit stronger.
Yeah. So what were the other things that you didn't like?
Some of the pacing, I agree with a lot of what you said. The pacing was slow at a lot of times, and I felt like those are the parts where I kind of got pulled out of the movie and I wasn't into it for a few minutes. And then Johnny Depp as Grindelwald, and you and I have very opposing thoughts on this. I, first of all, didn't actually see it coming. Like, I knew Grindelwald was going to be in the movie, and until it happened, I think that's how much I was buying into everything, that as it unfolded, I was like, oh my God, this is happening. And as they revealed him, I was really excited to see him. And then as I looked and I studied his face, and it looked more and more like Johnny Depp with blonde white hair and contact and paler makeup, and it looked less and less like Grindelwald to me, and that immediately took me out of it.
Wow.
And I just got so overwhelmingly disappointed knowing who Grindelwald was in the book to everybody. And I was just like, oh, this is the character we're going to see moving forward in the next 5 films. I don't know how it's going to happen. I didn't really like the way he delivered his lines. I felt like he was a little bit of like marble mouth, and I didn't really understand what he was saying. And then I feel that I would have liked to maybe have them reveal where Graves was, like the outcome of Graves, because I really like Colin Farrell's
Right.
character, and I wish he'd come back. but maybe he will. We don't know.
That's what we got to find out. It's interesting though too, because it seems to be anytime there's a book that's transferred into a movie that there's always people who have read the book see things a different way. Like I did. This was one because I did read the Harry Potter books. I didn't read this. I didn't read these stories or the separate stories of Fantastic Beasts, but I didn't know anything about Grindelwald, so I had no expectations of what I wanted him to look like, who I thought he was going to be. So that's why I think I'm with you to where the reveal itself, I actually didn't mind that it was Johnny Depp. I had more of a problem with what does that mean. If you gave me a choice, hey, you can either have Colin Farrell in this movie or Johnny Depp, I'm taking Colin Farrell all day.
Yes.
So we'll see.
He was great, and he did have a great amount of chemistry, and I was intrigued by the on-screen relationship between him and Ezra Miller. I just wish we had focused on, just one villain or one problem.
Right.
I mean,
That seems to be a lot of
it's
the
'cause,
problems
like, you have the big wizarding community problems, and then the problem that is the title of the movie, which
Right.
is catching the beasts. Maybe that should have just been the introduction with, with maybe just the Ezra Miller portion going on, but there are so many calamities and problems happening at once. It was hard to care about all of them.
Well, overall, though, I think this movie did a really good job in setting up the second film. It made me wanting more. I want to know more. I want to learn where these characters go. I want to learn so much more about the time leading up. And the beauty of it, what I think, that you're doing at 70 years, the next movie could be 10 years from this one. Not that it's going to be, but it could be. And then it's still 60 years before the event to Harry Potter.
Do you think this is going to be the end of characters like Tina, Queenie, and Jacob, though?
No, I don't think so.
Especially the way the movie ends. It seemed like they put a nice little
For
bow on that.
For the next movie, perhaps, but I don't think for the entire franchise, because I think that they're going to, because you remember, this is not coming from any other source material. This is coming from scripts and stuff that J.K. Rowling now, because I know some of the book, but for the most part, she's writing a lot of these scripts. They're going to pay, this is uncharted territory here. They're going to hear more about how I think that everybody is on a consensus that they love that relationship, that dynamic. I think it would be a mistake not to put them in it anymore.
I 110% agree. I really hope they all pop up together in the next movie, because if they don't, that's when I'll get just a slight bit nervous.
I'd be okay if they didn't show up together in the next films. It's very similar if you want to throw back to Star Wars, which I tend to do. But if for me, I don't want to see Finn and Rey together in the next movie. I want to see their union more happen in Episode 9. Then I'm going to care more, the same way that I would about this group, especially in 5 movies.
I don't care if they're together. I just want them to be in the movie.
I think
Understood.
that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think they'll be. I would like to see
Separate
them separate.
adventures.
Yeah, I think it's too soon to immediately bring back Newt and Tina together and start like exploring this maybe romance that they have going. It's too soon. It was so obvious.
But they are going to be together, though.
I think eventually, yes.
Well, because remember, she shows up at the bakery at the end of the movie.
That's
So
Queenie and
Yeah.
Jacob.
Queenie.
Yes.
Okay.
But yes, I want to see
Well-
those two. Do you think, speaking of those two, do you think he finally remembered her? Because he was making all the breads with the creatures.
This just goes to show how much their stuff worked, because that's all I was really thinking about immediately after I left the movie. That was like the inception moment to
Yeah.
me, and all of a sudden everything else in Fantastic Beasts faded away, and
That
it was
the most
all
important.
about
Well,
them.
The question is also, what is she able to do with her magic? She
Right,
clearly can read
right.
minds. Maybe she can do more. Maybe she can make him remember. I mean, maybe she can push thoughts towards his head. Who knows what she's able to do? I don't know if she's got the Professor X type magic, but we'll see. All right, before we get out of here, let's do a score out of 10 and our final thoughts. Perry, let's start with you, because I know you want to score it. Let's go. Let's
Yeah.
start with your overall thoughts, what you hope to see, and end us with a score.
My overall thought was I was primarily very happy with the movie. I was into it. I didn't think there were any pacing problems. I was just moving along, coasting, having a lot of fun. I got so incredibly invested in the 4 main characters that the fact that I wasn't really feeling the villain elements of the movie, in the end, it didn't really bother me. I'm probably going to go back and watch and love this movie just as much as I do the other Harry Potter films. So I think I'm leaning towards, you guys know how much it stresses me out. I hate reducing it to a number.
Come on.
6.7.
6.7 out of
was
10.
so close.
Interesting.
You
Okay.
were.
I predict the Perry score.
All right, Wendy,
Kind of.
you're up.
Kind of.
Well-
Thoughts and score.
All right, so I was just so happy to finally be able to go back to the wizarding world that JK has created for us. And despite what I think of Grindelwald's appearance, I am still happy to have this character finally, like coming to life. in these movies, leaping off the page, and I am ready to go back and see more Fantastic Beasts. I want to see more of these characters and where their relationships go, and for me, the score is 7.5 out of 10.
Wow, I'll be the happiest of the happy out of this group. I'll tell you what, this was a movie I was not looking forward too much to from seeing all the. I mean, I'm a Harry Potter fan. The reason I say that is because all the stuff I had seen on TV was a little underwhelming to me. The trailers, everything that I'd seen, I didn't know if Newt Scamander was going to be someone that I could care for the entire time, and he was. And like Perry was mentioning, the group was great. The Colin Farrell was great. I thought Ezra Miller worked out. I mean, there was so much in there that set up a new franchise that I wanted to see. I didn't have a problem with the CGI because I think I had such a problem with the CGI in the trailers that the way that it transferred on the big screen actually really worked for me. I was really invested in all of the beasts because when I got into that suitcase, I understood who this guy was. What you said before was perfect, is the fact that he doesn't work well with people, but he's in his own, he's in his element. You see him, he just knows about these creatures. There's more to learn about his brother, very subtly, the war hero. We heard about that, but they know about Scamander. They know things about him. He's got a reputation. What happened to him? I want to learn more about him. They set that up beautifully. So I found, and at that end scene what you talked about with Dan Fogler in the rain, there was a part of me, I'm like, don't go in the rain, man. Come back. Who cares? I'll never find out. I found myself rooting at the screen, and for that, I'm going big. I'm going 8.5 out of 10 for me. I really found myself loving this movie a lot more than I thought that I would, and I think that, and I will say this: do I think it's better than the movies that David Yates has done before Harry Potter? No, I don't. However, I will say that I think that this movie, if you look at there's going to be 5 movies. Out of the 5, starting out, number 1, and then Harry Potter, the first movie, I think this is a better first movie than the first Harry Potter Christopher Columbus movie was. So, I mean, if you look at it, the Christopher Columbus movie was fun. It was a fun family movie, and it set up things well. But if you go back, most people would say the first and the second one are probably the weakest of the movies. Maybe that's the case here, but I will tell you that this was a good setup for me. So, big fan. Thank you, Mr. Yates. Once again, you really know this world. All right, that's it. That's our review of Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. I'd like to thank both Perry Nemiroff, Wendy Lee, and myself, Christian Harloff. This is the review, spoiler reveal. We'll do more of them because we always do, because we talk about movies over here on Collider Video. Thanks for watching.
Hey, guys.